let's jump into this. Okay, so first and foremost, we got oh, sorry, Henry. Periods with the space after it doesn't like it. All right. So, this is yes, this is CCP Psych's update. CCP Psych is the dev that has been posting the most about it. You know, I know CCP Rattati has gotten a lot of I guess airtime. Not even that. Like he's been, you know, very visible about all this, but these changes themselves are being posted often about by CCP Psych. So here we have the update. This is what came out on Friday. So I didn't have a show on Friday and I didn't have a show on the weekend. So now we're just going to update everybody just in case. So dear Capsuleers, we thank you for the time that you've spent exploring the changes and providing valuable feedback. We spent this week listening to podcasts, reading your forum posts and blogs, and interacting with Discord communities and so forth. It is rare for us to update Sissy and post a dev blog this early in the process, but this is an important one, and we wanted to have as many eyes on it as possible. This is a pretty good point, given the fact that, what was the other? There was another one where they posted them on Sissy, and they explicitly made it early, so that way there'd be time to look at it and adjust things as necessary. And I think that they adjusted things in that example too. I think that one of the things that frustrates me about this is this pessimism that CCP doesn't iterate, which has just categorically not been true for 3 years. And I understand that nullsec, rightfully so, feels that way because they have had the least amount of content looked at. But a lot of the ships and other changes have been focused on nullsec fighting. So a lot of the functionality has been focused on nullsec fighting. And the thing is that given the fact that nullsec wants it to be player focused, it becomes very difficult to figure out what kind of content you'd want CCP to introduce. You know, if there's a version to, you know, what is it called? Non-consensual PvE, then, you know, if it's not PvE, that is literally all that CCP can do, right? CCP literally is the E in PvE. So, you know, if nullsec is about generating their own stories, then yes, they have to provide you guys the tools to do so. But I understand why the majority of their actual like dev time when it comes to making content would not necessarily be in nullsec. That said, the content that they have been coming out with, especially when it came to like invasions and other such things, even the ESS changes, as much as people like to brush them off, or the dynamic bounty system, they iterated on they've changed that at least 4 or 5 times since it came out. You know, they've iterated on a lot of different pieces and they've fixed things very quickly, right? And this was pretty true in invasions too. So I feel like it's unfair to argue from the position that they are not iterating on things, or that they're just going to push this out without listening. Sometimes they do that. And do you know why? It's because basically, okay, a feature goes on to Sissy, a bug gets reported, right? I can't think of a good example, but what they'll do is they'll evaluate it and they'll say, why is my chat not working? Hold on. What? I have no idea why chat's not working. This isn't my fault this time. I'll have to, dude, everything has gone wrong for like the last 48 hours. I'm fine. I'm good. But it's just little things like that. Nonstop. Anyway. Okay. So, where was I? Nullsec, content, iteration, unfair. Oh, yeah. So a feature gets pushed to Sissy. A bug gets reported. It's bad, right? But it isn't going to cause irrevocable harm to the system, like allow somebody to generate trillions of ISK or something like that. And it's not going to it's not a mission critical bug, right? When a bug report comes in on Sissy, they have to ask themselves, is this worth stopping the train, right? Because that, like, the development cycle, like, if it's already on Sissy, that means it's gone through a lot of other steps, unless it's in this sort of case. But what I'm saying is that, like, those things that hit Sissy and then, quickly go on to Tranquility without adjustment to feedback, sometimes the bug or the change takes a little bit of time. And often it's not something where you can just like push it a week, because there's a whole bunch of other features that are supposed to be coming out this week. The train's coming. So like, it's always better, the question is this worth jumping through all those hoops to make it happen? Or can we just deploy it as is while we work on the fix? And more often than not, it's the second one, right? What's funny is, even if they have like the fix done by the time the patch goes through, that fix also needs to go through QA and through the deployment cycle. So the patch could actually be in the pipeline in theory. And like, that's fine. Other reasons why would be if CCP wants to see how something works on scale, right? We can argue about how things are on paper. This is actually a really good example with this current changes, right? Most of the arguing about it is either maths or theorizing philosophy, right? Very few people are like, we're not seeing the actual impact to the economy. We're not seeing the full implications of this patch. We're only postulating on impact of the patch. And so that is a much more difficult feedback to kind of navigate. Yeah, known shippable is the professional terminology. That, yeah. Like we know about it, and but it's not bad enough to stop everything to fix. Exactly. So a good example is like a phone app, a VoIP app, right? That communicates. I made apps like this, so it's kind of where my brain goes. But I'm getting it ready to release, and as in its final stages of release, it turns out that on Samsung phones, if it enters Wi-Fi and then leaves Wi-Fi and then enters Wi-Fi for more than 10 seconds, it crashes. Or even more serious, there's a good chance that the chat protocol makes it so that people get cleared off of chat or don't fail to clear off of chat. Well, even if you have a fix for that, you're not going to and to the users, that would be considered, especially if those users are EVE players, that's considered a mission critical thing. But from a development side of things, it's not the kind of bug that actually stops the deployment. All right. Hey, wait, chat might be working now. Is it just fading away too fast? Is that all that happened? I'm going to have to make it so it doesn't fade away too fast. That's easy. No problem. All right. Sorry, that was, woof, we're not even into the changes yet. I get a lot of complaints about the fact that my stuff is it's like, you're reacting to a thing and it's like an hour. I'm like, yeah, I have a lot to say. We also want to thank the CSM for their input and in help in shaping the plan, the details of which you can find below. I think that this is literally just calling it out because there's always that like argument that either A, they didn't listen to the CSM, or B, the CSM is incompetent or whatever. And I think that it's good for them to say, to point out that, yeah, they did accept CSM feedback and it was good and it was part of it. As will be evident by the end of this post, Singularity, our test servers, is not up to date. And from what I saw, it still isn't. So this is actually a really interesting, really important point. Nobody's maths since, nobody's experience on Sissy since Friday has been accurate. Because if I remember correctly, they put in like half of this fix and not the other half. So it's like all of the numbers are just absolutely hosed right now. So we're gonna have to see to get these all on Sissy before we can truly crunch them. But okay, so don't believe anything you see about people's stuff from this weekend, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. No longer relevant. And actually, that would have never been relevant because it's like in that hybrid weird state. Anyway, compression. Compression is a vital part of the resource redistribution phase, and it'll allow for significantly better logistics and trade. We want this feature to be the industrial command ships, but we also want the user experience to be good too. To that end, update to compression will be delayed to early 2022 as we reevaluate the implementation. Until then, existing compression methods will remain unchanged. So my most pessimistic, my most conservative estimate about what this means is, one, they must fix the problem where you have to constantly fiddle with it in order for it to continue to work, right? The fact that it's ammo, therefore it has to come from the hold, which means it, you know, you have to move things in over and over again. That needs to be fixed one way or another. And the time will be looked at too, because they definitely heard, it was the same dev, CSP Psych, that earlier posted that they were looking at, one of the things that they were looking at was the timer on the compression modules. So I would expect compression to come back for sure. I would expect the lossy compression to be a thing. It'll be interesting to see whether or not they go with having moon ore compression in HiSec. But, you know, this isn't like that they didn't like how the feature, they didn't hear, like, it wasn't the complaints of, like, the compression or all that stuff. That isn't why this got pulled. It was a technical issue. They also, the mining frigates, they reverted all the mining frigates changes, too. By the way, the last thing about this is, what I always find hilarious about this is, this was the, like, hallmark feature, right? This was the one thing we knew. That we were getting gas and moon compression. And now we're not. Whoopsie. New Dawn has been delayed to 2022. All right. Mining efficiency. One of our goals. Okay, so in short, the feedback around new players, we've altered the mechanics such as low yield modules have 0 waste and higher yield modules have more waste. So remember, in the old system, they had 2 different things. One, they wanted to reward you for specializing, i.e. getting trained and getting skills and using the correct crystals. And secondly, they wanted to punish the use of excavators. Let's be frank, right? They wanted excavators to be good, but wasteful. So with that in mind, knowing that, oh, wait, we don't want to encourage people to train into just to get away from waste. What if waste was a compromise for, you know, pushing it further, right? Which in theory works. So let's break this down. Tech 1 modules and Tech 1 drones will now have 0% waste. The drones one is actually kind of interesting. Hold on. when they take away my Battle Orca, I'll be a bit mad. Dude, they made it more Battle Orca, didn't they? The waste profile. Okay, yeah. So Tech 2 modules is 34%. Tech 2 drones, 34%. This is the way it was before. Although, we'll get to why that's a little bit different. Augmented drones are going to be 40, and excavator drones are going to be 60. So this time, CCP, this is Jump Freighter. This is Jump Freighter jumping to covert ops all over again, right? Like, be careful what you bitch about. You want, oh yeah, you're right. This does punish newbies. So let's make sure it's absolutely explicit that we want the excavators to feel as bad as everything else, or worse than it's going to be the most wasteful now. Now there's no confusion. There's no, anyway. Wow, they changed it because people use New Bros as their augment so that they could get more ore. Exactly. And I called this out too, right? Like, sure, there was a bunch of concern about the New Bros, but there was a big piece of it where if I complain about New Bro waste, I'm also complaining about Rockwall waste. But that isn't how it ended up. But there is more to this. Mining crystals and the associated processing skill has had no major updates, although there has been some minor adjustments. I believe the big change here is this waste probability bonus addition. So, and this says additive. This confused a few people, so let's explain. This 34% is a multiplier against the amount of ore that you mine, right? So you get 34%. If this was a multiplier, then if you use type A crystals, it would make it so that you had 0 waste no matter what, because you're multiplying by 0. It's additive because this percentage is added to this percentage for your total. So a Tech 2 module using type B crystals will have 54% chance of waste. We understand? And these say 0 multiplier bonus because the normal multiplier bonus is 1. Any questions? I feel this waste system is a better direction than before. Yeah, and honestly, this is another great example about like the reframing of things. We talked about reframing it as a perk is one way of doing it, but this is honestly another way, right? Like the argument that higher yield also provides waste because you're doing it more wastefully. That makes sense. My only question is, and it goes back to the previous one, why not just make it so that that mining lasers don't have waste? Like strip mining should have waste. Excavator drones should have waste. But like, I don't know, man. Hey, thanks for the follow. All right. That's that. Rockwall changes. As we transition the Rockwall from absolute best solo mining ship to a more supportive role. So remember, if you read this correctly, it was the absolute best solo mining ship, but now it won't be because it's going to be a more supportive role. Transitions are from to. All right. So stop arguing that it should be a solo mining ship. Or the best. It is a solo mining ship, but it's not the best solo mining ship. Either way. Offering panic, sorting of ships, remote repairs, links, and beefy tank. We want to ensure that these ships provide ample value to field. So another big thing to remember is that, like, the idea that Rockwalls had to be a good mining ship, one thing that confuses me is the argument that, and we'll get into this when we look at the article that was written, is the argument that CCP did these Rockwall changes against the player's wishes. Like, yes, when it hit Sissy, there was a lot of people that were like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a lot of a huge amount of yield. But you know what most people said? You know what the biggest noise that I heard? I mean, I wasn't in their no, we'll talk about it when we get to the article. Either way, my point is that they needed to get these things to be willing to go onto the belts. And they knew that they were destroying every person's roque wall, every person that had a roque wall. The reason why they were having a roque wall, had the roque wall, it was being destroyed. And now they have to be asked to do a totally different thing. And so for the most part, there was people that were saying that this is no way going to be enough, that it doesn't matter. So this idea that like the player base, and more importantly, the roque wall remained unchanged for years. It was maligned. People had been asking for something from the roque wall for years. And then when off-grid boost finally got removed from everything else, it was understood that like there was a technical challenge for roque walls or off-grid mining boosts, but that was going to come too. And like, that was what people wanted. I don't understand that argument that people come up with now, but either way, we are where we are. It's not going to be the best solo mining ship. It's now going to be, you need to have the roque wall with support or with things to support. Waste is taken in addition to and prior to what you collect, i.e. 100 ore mine generating 50% waste means 50 comes out of the... Fonsui, you're close. So yes, the waste gets taken out first, but you got the way that waste works incorrect. The way that waste actually works is if you were mining 100 ore and you had 50% waste, then 50% of the time you would waste 100 ore, and then it would pull 100 ore into your cargo hold. And that is actually a legitimate concern, because that means it's going to impact you a lot more than has been given credit. And I'm not just talking about it from an in-universe. Fonsui says you're talking about it in-universe conceptually. People are designing this or thinking purely economically. I don't think either of those are true. I think that the designers do think about, like, when you're thinking about the design of things, they didn't say just they wanted this to fit into the economic situation that they wanted. It was about the core fantasy of being a foreman. They called that out they said they're trying to capture the fantasy of being a foreman. That means that, or, you know, like the mining stuff. So it's about having the mechanics described to you in a way that seems correct, not just its impact on the economics. That decides what you do, but the fantasy that you're trying to speak it to decides how you frame it, or which option you choose. Oh, in regards to mining lasers versus strip miners. No. I was suggesting that even back in the earlier, when it came to like making it so that newbies didn't have to make waste, rather than making Tech 1 strip miners create 0 waste. Go ahead and make Tech 1 strip miners create like 20% waste or whatever, or even 60% waste. I don't care. But make it so that Tech 1 and Tech 2 mining lasers, because that's ventures, you know, whatever. That's newbie, right? So that's all I was saying. So I'm saying, like, if you're going to go with higher, it's just weird to me to have all of that granulation, but also lump mining lasers with strip miners. I consider those very different. I consider those far more different than Tech 2 drones and mining and augmented drones. All right. So I don't remember the old numbers exactly. We could pull them up, but, you know, this is kind of the same. I don't think much has changed here. It is worth noting that, yeah, we are also getting stronger foreman bursts. So everyone's mining is getting better. I guess these. Oh, are these the numbers that they changed from the old blog? I don't know what, man. Somebody actually knows about roque walls will give a good answer to that. We are sure by now on Singularity, some of you have discovered the fleet jump option for the roque wall. This is a work in progress feature, and we are looking forward to giving you more insight into it soon. I mean, I think this has some good implications. I think that this actually makes it so that the I guess nerfs or supposed nerfs to the skiff line makes me more sad. Like the idea of combat capable mining fleet, a mining fleet with teeth within itself, is super legit. Yeah, I wanted the ninja mining fleets as well, but nullsec people that I talked to rein that idea in, and most likely it's just going to be jump portaling from moon to moon. But I just realized, like, you could. Oh no, it depends on what they can pull with them. Because I was about to say you could like load the ship in and then jump with everybody and then put out the without having to use as much. None of that made any sense. Never mind. So yeah, I would love it if CCP introduces something that causes you to want to leave your castle with a group, ninja out there, mine, and then ninja home. I kind of don't care what has to happen as in the interim steps to lead up to that moment. If it's an escalation that the roque wall can get, there you go. It's an escalation that roque walls can get by completing an anomaly. And then they have to bring their mining fleet with them. Done. Ship it. I wonder why they don't just make it always waste 50 the percentage cycle. It averages out to the same over time because they want waste to, like, if you have good waste, then you can grab it. Like you'll roll, it's rolling the dice, right? Like, yes, it averages out to be the same, but the whole point of having random things in a video game is so that individual players can play within that randomness, right? I mean, that makes sense. No, it's not the same though, because let's say I know that if I say, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but let's say I know that there's 150 rocks in there, or there's exactly 100 rocks in there. If I have 100 waste, or if it's 50% waste, then I know for a fact I'm going to get 50. If I'm not going to do, or if I have waste, then I may choose to mine it and hope for the 50% that I get it all, or I may choose to just move on and grab another one, knowing that I might just get nothing. You understand how that choice is different, right? Like one is I can collect that last 50. The other is I can choose to do this thing that may or may not work, or I can choose to just move on. Well, they're not exactly the risky sort. Well, risk as in, like, everybody likes to take a gamble, right? On some level. Well, then if you want the income to be predictable as possible, then they are not the same to you. If you want your income to be as predictable as possible, then you would never bother with that final cycle in that situation. I'm sure that they could add special secret rocks that have percent chance to whip out a gun and start shooting back. I mean, isn't that what rats showing up is? Like anytime you're mining, there's a chance for rats to spawn. That's that, right? I mean, outside of thematics, that's mechanically the same thing. I wish we had a ship that could disguise as a rock. Ooh. Or like, no. What I'd like to do is set out a bomb that looks like a rock. So when you mine it, it pulls it into your hold and blows it up. This isn't a video game thing. This is just like, come on now. All right. Let's see. Anything else that we got to talk? Oh, yeah. Mining frigates and the Porpoise. All proposed changes to Venture, Expedition frigates, and Porpoise are being reverted with one exception. They will still be getting the additional gas and ice bays as relevant. So that's pretty cool. They're going to get the bays, but they're not going to get like the thing. Like the Venture is going to keep its gas bonus. We did it, guys. As I posted on Twitter, I think I was like, you guys have your victories. I have mine. You're welcome, Seeds. Anyway, ninja mining as a career is something that we absolutely love and have no intentions of removing this playstyle. Rather, we want to enable more playstyles on top of it. I'm telling you, man, please, we need a module that can be fit to only mining frigates that, when activated, has a % chance of acquiring any rocks wasted within a certain vicinity, right? So that way the orca with its, or sorry, the Rorqual with its excavators can be chewing through stuff, and you feel like you're wasting, unless you have a newbie there or whatever, that with a mining frigate that's able to capture that waste. And because you're mining so fast and wasting so fast for that Venture, that's the fastest way for him to mine. I think this is a good idea. Because I think the real problem with waste is that there's no counterplay. All right. The Cryos mineral hold change to be plus 7,000, total 50,000. I mean, 50,000 M3 for a mineral hold is pretty sweet. Our goal with barges and exhumers is to create a meaningful choice between survivability, yield, and ore hold. However, we understand that some of these ships are not survivable enough. To that end, we're working closely with the CSM to define the best approach. Our end goal is to significantly increase the EHP of all barges and all exhumers, as well as their mining yield. So what I'm interpreting this as is the player base saw the nerf in the skiff and the Tech 1, but it was kind of roundabout, right? It was based on module changes, not necessarily like a change to the EHP or like the hit points or the resistance of the ship itself. So, so now they have to kind of go back and be like, oh shoot, you're right. We didn't intend to literally make the skiff less tanky. Rubble collector. Exactly. Yeah. Or even not even use, well, kind of like a salvager. I would like it's more or less a salvager. Make it use like salvaging bonuses. Or skills. Gas bonuses have been added to the appropriate ships. Detailed stats on the barges, exhumers will be revealed in the later post. The graphs in the following section are calculated with the news bonuses for barges, exhumers, and are very much still under evaluation. I'm so glad that they made these graphs because, man, numbers don't reflect what's going on. So this is way, way better. So this is the way it currently works, right? So this is the arc as it is. Now, somebody pointed out that like they didn't think that the Hulk was literally double the Covetor. And I couldn't find a way that was true. But whatever. Just have a waste cloud that forms. Well, it already has the bit that burns off. So you can see that this is at 160. This is at 80. But now they're both at almost 120, right? So even if you consider this, basically you took 40 off of the Rorqual and give it to the Hulk, more or less. The Mackinac goes from 80, or sorry, from just over 40 to just over. Actually, yeah, you give like that 40 to everybody. The skiff is going from 30 to 60. Now, remember, this is going to create modulated strip miner 2 with a type A crystal is going to be 54% waste or whatever. Hinting at new ships anyways. I know of no ships on the horizon at the moment. Type B crystal 2. Hold on. Oh, this is a crystal. So even with the worst crystal. So this is not. This is 10% waste. Which I think was originally 0 and now it's 10. I think that's why they highlighted it yellow. Anywho, so this would be 44 or whatever % waste. And then Tech 2 goes from, oh yeah, the Hulk now outstrips the Roke Wall at its top. You know what? This is honestly the way I described it, or the way that I thought it was supposed to be from the very beginning. Well, I mean, no. I didn't think it was this at the very beginning. At the very beginning of the Roke Wall, literally each excavator mined as much as a Hulk. But I guess well, I've never really tried to balance the Roke Wall because that's like not my bag, baby. But I saw this as being like the Orca, right? The fact that the maybe the Orca should be, you know, down here or whatever. But the point is that the Hulk should be doing more, right? Like the Hulk should be the highest mining yield ship in the game because it is the most specialized in that direction, right? It is the ship that only mines, specialized to mine for yield. If this is not the top, then it's a problem. Oh, man. Hey, Pando. I'm about to piss off your whole audience. No, I'm just kidding. How's it going? Glorification to you, sir. Thanks for the follows. I'm going to mute that so that way it doesn't like cause a whole bunch of problems, though. All right. The Ice Harvesters on TQ, old and new. 07. We've got the Hulk goes from just under 70 to just over 80. So these are buffs across the board, you know, but obviously these, I guess it's proportional because the Mackinac, I think it's a little bit less bonus. Now, I don't know. The Mackinac used to be the ice miner, so whatever. The proposed change of removing basic minerals from R4 moon ores is under evaluation. That would be huge. That would be huge. I think that one of the concerns that they would have is if you have too much actual basic minerals, then people might be less inclined to do stuff with the R4 moon goo. And by God, do we need more of that moon goo in reacted and in circulation? So for a short while, mining will suddenly be a lot more profitable. I disagree. What? Maybe. Well, right now, during scarcity was when it was probably the most profitable per cycle of ore, right? Because the minerals were all huge priced, and so all the ore was huge priced. Things are probably going to be going back down because they're making ore more available and increasing yield. The key here is that the Roke Walls, given the fact that Roke Walls had so much more yield and there was a ton of them now, they were basically taking care of most of the demand. And so that made things like mining barges and exhumers not worth it as much. So they brought down those command ships down to below the mining levels of the mining ships. Imagine that. And buffing the mining ships. Correct. Yield is actually a confusing term in this case. So yield is going to go up both in throughput and potential, right? So especially if you're using mining ships. If you're using Rorquals and excavators, or sorry, Rorquals or orcas, then yes, your yield has gone, your potential yield, your throughput has gone down, but your potential yield isn't that bad because they made it so that drones are also not that bad. It's just the excavators that do a lot of waste. So theoretically, ship costs should come down to mineral prices. For a bit might be lucrative enough until ship prices settle with minerals. So that's the thing. Like the ship prices have already kind of adjusted to the industrial changes, but the things that are making the industrial changes go bonkers are R4 moon reactables and exploration and gas. Exploration, loot, and gas. So more minerals won't necessarily fix that, but the more moon goo will, because they are also doubling the extraction rate. So there is, that. And there's more ice, so hopefully that's more fuel blocks. So we'll see. And this is also like the first month of at least 2 months of this quadrant. And this is the very beginning of scarcity versus, the end of scarcity, beginning of redistribution, or prosperity, as they want to call it now, I guess. I'm going to take another tangent on this one. I am sick and tired of this argument about whether or not this is the end of scarcity. Okay? So here's the thing. We can say that CCP poorly communicated what they meant by that. We can say that this is not enough, but it's very difficult to argue that this isn't the end of scarcity. And to anyone who does want to argue that, I have one simple question for you. What would entail the end of scarcity for you? Because to me, the end of scarcity isn't about there not being any rocks. Scarcity is about the cuts, right? Scarcity was about cut after cut after cut and allowing those cuts to play their way out, right? So the end of scarcity is the end of those dramatic cuts and the first big boost, and actually not even the first, because they said that the first element of redistribution happened months ago, but the first significant bonus, which was just giving you all of this extra ore, right? Like, if that is not, at least technically, the end of scarcity, then what is? And the answers I've gotten are horrible. If the end of scarcity for you is the Rorqual getting back to the pre-scarcity era, then you're going to live in scarcity for the rest of your Eve days. If in fact, if any of your argument ends with the sentence, includes the sentence or the phrase pre-scarcity era, and doesn't begin with not right before it, you probably are going to be in scarcity for quite some time. Why? Because if pre-scarcity era was correctly balanced, then scarcity era wouldn't have been such a thing, wouldn't been a thing to do. Like, the problem isn't the scarcity era necessarily. The problem is the 3 to 4 years from citadels to the scarcity era, right? Where increasingly, like, you can even see it on the production graphs. Like, we looked at the MERs. Like, no, we cannot go back to the way it was. All right. I know they disagree on the premise that it was ever broken, but I mean, again, look. Oh, no, actually, hold on. Let me say the other piece of this, which is that the problem that I have is that the other argument I hear is like, I say, well, they doubled the rocks, and they're like, it doesn't matter if you mine it slower or whatever. And to that I say, Yes, it does. Scarcity has nothing to do. The word scarcity has nothing to do necessarily with how much or how fast you can extract it. Now, there could be a scarcity in market, but that wasn't what this was. This was a scarcity in resources. So since the resources are now here, even if it's more complicated and difficult to actually extract them and get the most out of them, that is still no longer scarcity, or at least a step away from scarcity. I'm not saying that we're like in prosperity right now. What I'm saying is it's just curved up, right? Like we've been at this plummet and now it's just, that's still now going up. I would say that this is a step away from scarcity for the moment. Every indication that CCP is given is that they don't want to go back to scarcity. Let me tell you this, okay? I remember having a conversation, and Fonsui, I think you'll remember things similar to this, where back in like 2018, like pre all of this, I think it was CCP Rise was discussing like adding in new content to the game, because we were talking about like in the Abyss and other things like that. And the big concern is that CCP, are they coming to take me away? The CCP couldn't add any more faucets. Like they had to hit their maximum of what they could do. And like this was a big problem. Like they had to actually cut into things in order to bring other things, or find a way to make things not be a raw ISK, faucet. So, like that was the tremors, that there was something, if not wrong, teetering towards it even then. Okay. Nobody thought that like it was, we couldn't go on that way, and we can't go back to that. Exactly. We don't want people to stockpile minerals like pre-scarcity. Exactly. Pre-scarcity, people stockpiled. Scarcity, people release some of the stockpiles. And like they want to go back to, you're using it, but if you stockpile, then on a long enough timeline, it's just broke again. It's going to be difficult. But that's the point. Like, that's why you can't necessarily give numbers about what your actual goals are ahead of time, because like the whole point of this exercise is to find those numbers. They didn't know what left of healthy meant, but when they wrote that in the dev blog, but we were going to find out, right? So now we knew what too much is, and now we know what too little is, like for the economy. So now where's the third bowl of porridge? That's what this phase is all about. And this one change isn't an attempt to get that solved. It's an effort to just simply signal to us, it's over, guys. The hard times are over. It's all, this is the dawn. It's not noon. It's fucking dawn. First crest of light. All right. Listen, if I can't make a 400 million ISK an hour for 8 hours straight by clicking a new rock every once in a while I'm watching Netflix, then I'm not having fun in the game. The invocation of the word fun in all of this, I thought has been pretty impressive during this whole discussion. And also, like, I tweeted this yesterday, although I think I've poorly phrased it, but if you got sent back in time to 10 years, and in order to get home to your family and loved ones, you have to find one person who would argue to CCP vocally and publicly that CCP is is hurting mining, and that the player base are defending mining against CCP. If that was true, you better start planning for the pandemic in a decade, because you ain't going anywhere, right? Like, what's funny is that before the Rockwell change, everyone I spoke to who was like a miner who's especially the ones or the ones that said that the Rorquals change were not going to be sufficient. The issue was is that no one respected miners. They were seen as like ticks upon their upon the civilization at best because they don't form up to fight or whatever, right? People nowadays can hardly fathom the framework of mind. It's an entire paradigm shift happened. It's amazing to me. Okay. So let's go to how long have